While massive ground armies and nuclear weapons certainly have their place, the world's true power is encapsulated within these 14 slender lines. These are known as choke points, passages so critical that, were they to be strangled, the global economy would cease to breathe. Among them lies a route through which 20% of the world's oil flows, and another where even a minor skirmish could instantly ignite a third world war. Today, we will embark on a journey through these 14 gateways to understand who truly holds the reins of global control. Welcome back to another video from Shadow Atlas. Viewers, the power of the entire world does not reside with any nuclear arsenal or massive military force. Rather, it lies with these 14 narrow maritime passages known in the language of geopolitics as choke points. If any power were to seal off these gateways today, the entire global economy would collapse by tomorrow morning. Famine would sweep across numerous nations, petrol pumps would run dry, and life-saving medicines would become virtually unobtainable. Today we will examine these 14 gateways one by one and discover how just one of them could potentially trigger a third world war. Our journey begins in the Middle East, the region where the world's greatest treasure lies hidden. Oil. The most critical gateway to this treasure is the Strait of Hormuz. This is an extremely narrow maritime channel situated between Iran and Oman. This passage is of such immense strategic importance that over 20% of the world's oil passes through it. Every single day, millions of barrels of oil traverse this route aboard massive tankers, making their way to various nations across the Americas, Europe and Asia. Just imagine, this vital passage is merely 33 kilometers wide. If one day, Iran were to station its military along this route and declare that no ships would pass, the price of petrol across the entire world would skyrocket. This is precisely why the United States and other major global powers always keep a watchful eye on this route. Moving beyond the Strait of Hormuz, we encounter yet another formidable gateway, known as Bab el-Mandeb. In Arabic, this name translates to the Gate of Tears. This gateway is situated between Yemen and Djibouti. It earned this moniker because, in ancient times, maritime pirates and treacherous waves frequently wrecked ships passing through it. And even in the modern era, it remains just as perilous. You may have recently heard in the news that the Houthi rebels in Yemen have been launching attacks on vessels traversing this route. The significance of this passage lies in the fact that any ship wishing to travel from Asia to Europe must navigate through this narrow strait to enter the Red Sea. Should this gateway be blocked, ships would be forced to circumnavigate the entire African continent. Such a detour would entail weeks of additional travel time, millions of dollars in extra fuel costs, and the daunting task of confronting the treacherous waves of the southern Indian Ocean. Ultimately, the entire cost of these disruptions would be passed on to the general public in the form of inflation. After passing through Bab el-Mandeb, ships sail across the Red Sea, heading directly toward the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal stands as the world's third most critical maritime gateway. It is a man-made canal situated within Egypt. This canal serves as the vital link connecting the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Thanks to this canal, ships are spared the necessity of undertaking the lengthy detour around Africa. The world was last starkly reminded of the Suez Canal's immense importance on March 23, 2021, when a container ship named the Ever Given became stranded there. The route remained blocked for a mere 6 days. Yet, within that brief period, the global economy suffered losses, amounting to a staggering $54 billion. Goods worth millions, including food supplies and essential machinery, remained marooned in the middle of the ocean, completely at a standstill. The significance of the Suez Canal can be gauged by the fact that a substantial portion of Egypt's economy is sustained solely by the revenue generated from taxes levied on ships passing through this waterway. It serves as a gateway that acts as the backbone of trade between the West and the East. Now let us turn our attention to Europe and focus on the Strait of Gibraltar. This is the gateway that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Situated between Spain and Morocco, this passage is, in reality, so narrow that one can stand on one side and clearly see the other continent. Throughout history, major battles have consistently been fought over this route. for whoever controls this passage effectively controls half of the trade conducted between Europe and Africa. Today this gateway is under British control, where they have established a small military base. If Gibraltar were to be closed, the Mediterranean Sea would effectively be reduced to a landlocked lake, severing the maritime links of more than half of the European nations with the rest of the world. As we venture further into the Mediterranean, we encounter two crucial gateways belonging to Turkey, the Bosphorus Strait and the Dardanelles Strait. These two passages connect the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. The entire maritime trade of nations such as Russia, Ukraine, Romania and Bulgaria is dependent upon these two gateways. For Russia in particular, these passages constitute a critical red line. While Russia possesses numerous coastlines, most of its seas remain frozen for the majority of the year. The Black Sea is the sole avenue through which Russian vessels can access the rest of the world year-round. Consequently, Turkey holds a geopolitical significance that is truly unique on the global stage. Under the provisions of international law, they have retained control over these gateways. Furthermore, in the event of war, it is Turkey alone that determines which warships may pass and which may not. This is precisely why both Russia and the United States constantly strive to keep Turkey appeased. Traversing the Black Sea would be impossible without their cooperation. Now let us turn our journey toward Asia, specifically toward a route that is perhaps the busiest maritime passage in the world, the Strait of Malacca. Situated between Malaysia, Singapore and Indonesia, this gateway serves as the vital link connecting the Indian and Pacific Oceans. All the oil and goods destined for major economies like China, Japan and South Korea pass through this very route. In fact, approximately 25% of global maritime trade depends solely on this single passage. For China, this route is a matter of life and death. China is acutely aware that should a conflict ever erupt with the United States, the US Navy could easily block this narrow passage. Navy would likely blockade the Strait of Malacca. This would sever all of China's supply lines and cause its economy to collapse. In geopolitical parlance, this existential fear is known as the Malacca Dilemma. This is precisely why China is investing heavily in the Belt and Road Initiative to ensure it remains connected to other parts of the world, so that in the event of a war, it possesses a viable alternative in the form of a road network. Situated right at this gateway lies the small nation of Singapore. Having recognized the strategic importance of this route, it is today counted among the world's wealthiest and most developed nations. This status is owed entirely to the fact that it serves as the guardian of this critical gateway. If for any reason the Strait of Malacca were to close, ships would be compelled to seek alternative routes. This is where two other vital gateways come into play, the Sunda Strait and the Lombok Strait. Both of these passages wind their way through the archipelago of Indonesia. The route through the Sunda Strait is somewhat hazardous, primarily because the waters there are relatively shallow and the area is home to active underwater volcanoes. The Lombok Strait, however, serves as a boon for large vessels that require deeper waters for navigation. Massive oil tankers that are unable to traverse the Strait of Malacca opt instead for the longer route through the Lombok Strait. By virtue of these strategic waterways, Indonesia possesses the potential to emerge as a major maritime power, as it holds the key alternatives to some of the world's most critical trade routes. Moving further along the global map, we arrive at the Taiwan Strait, a gateway situated between Taiwan and China. This is not merely a maritime route. At this moment it stands as the world's biggest flashpoint. In other words, World War III could erupt here at any moment. Taiwan manufactures over 90% of the world's most advanced microchips, components that power your mobile phones, cars and computers. Note, while Taiwan makes 60 to 70% of all chips, they produce over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. I've used 90% here to highlight the critical nature of the chips usually referred to in this context. All these goods are transported across the globe by passing through the Taiwan Strait. China regards Taiwan as an integral part of its territory and asserts its claim over this waterway. Conversely, the United States and its allies view it as an international passage and routinely navigate their warships through it. China's desire to acquire Taiwan stems partly from the fact, clearly visible in satellite imagery that a chain of islands, situated directly off its coast, blocks its access to the open ocean. This is the first island chain. It extends from the Philippines to Taiwan and from Taiwan to Japan. Consequently, should a conflict ever erupt, China would be unable to utilize the Pacific Ocean to deploy its submarines directly to American shores. This is precisely why China asserts its claim over Taiwan, to ensure that its own coastline gains direct access to the Pacific. Furthermore, were the Taiwan Strait ever to be closed off, the ensuing conflict would not be confined solely to Taiwan and China, but would instead unfold between two global superpowers, the United States and China. Now let us take a long-distance journey to North and South America, where we encounter the Panama Canal, arguably the greatest engineering marvel in the world. In earlier times, if a ship needed to travel from New York to San Francisco, it was compelled to undertake a lengthy circumnavigation of the entire South American continent, a voyage that often took months to complete. Eventually, human ingenuity led to the excavation of a canal through the landmass connecting the Americas, a waterway now known as the Panama Canal. This canal is truly remarkable due to its sophisticated lock system. Essentially, ships are hydraulically lifted, along with the surrounding water, to traverse the mountainous terrain before being lowered back down to sea level. This vital gateway serves as a direct link between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. In the Panama Canal stands as a pivotal secret behind American power, enabling both its naval fleet and its commercial vessels to transition rapidly from one ocean to the other. But through which route did ships pass before the construction of the Panama Canal? They passed through the Strait of Magellan, a passage situated at the very southernmost tip of South America. It is the place where the land ends and Antarctica begins. This route is extremely treacherous, cold and stormy. Nowadays, large commercial vessels rarely utilize this passage, thanks to the convenience offered by the Panama Canal. However, should any issue ever arise with the Panama Canal, or if water levels were to drop, as is currently occurring due to climate change, the world would be compelled to turn once again toward this old and perilous gateway. Let us now turn our attention to a European gateway that has held immense historical significance, the English Channel. This passage lies between the UK and France, connecting the North Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. It ranks among the busiest maritime routes in the world. Ships bound for Europe's largest ports such as Rotterdam must navigate through this very channel. One can gauge its importance by the fact that more than 400 commercial vessels pass through it every single day. Historically, Hitler made strenuous efforts to seize control of this passage. However, the British Navy successfully defended this gateway, a feat that ultimately enabled Britain to win the war. Beyond all these routes lies a gateway that, while not yet heavily utilized, is poised to become the world's most critical maritime passage within the next 20 to 30 years. It is known as the Bering Strait. This passage is situated precisely between Alaska and Russia. Currently, the area remains frozen for most of the year. However, due to global warming, this ice is melting at an accelerated pace. Once the ice has completely melted, this will emerge as a new and significantly shorter route, linking Asia with both Europe and the Americas. Both Russia and the United States have already begun making preparations, for whoever commands this new gateway will, in the coming century, effectively command the realm of global trade. Another crucial point is the Cape of Good Hope. Although in technical terms, it is not a narrow passage, it represents a distinct turn at the southernmost tip of Africa that has served as a hub for centuries. Whenever a crisis arises in the Suez Canal or the Red Sea, ships from across the globe reroute their journeys to traverse this longer path. These 14 choke points are the narrow passages that have historically controlled the global order and will continue to do so in the future. This is precisely why the United States has established a presence, either directly or indirectly, at 10 of these 14 gateways. You can draw your own conclusions regarding who then holds the ultimate control. We hope you will once again show your immense support by liking and sharing this video from Shadow Atlas. Thank you so much for your wonderful and encouraging comments. We look forward to seeing you in our next exciting video.